All right.
Yeah, so like I was saying, just want to have it sort of like a conversation, Just kind of
Okay. Yeah.
me and you. But, talk to me kind of how you would a normal conversation.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, let's talk about it. Um, you want me to get into like you know what? I'll just start off a little bit about myself. Um, my name is Paul Alonzo. I'm the first one on the podcast of the Nothing Special podcast. I'm better known as T-Mite. I got that name. I'm from Lompoc, California. Got that name on the streets of Lompoc, California, from the west side. um, I think I got that name. They started calling me Little T-Mite, I think, when I was about 12 years old. I want to say Junebug, my boy Stilo. Shout out my boy. I want to say he was the first person to ever call me Little T-Mite. And then, funny story too is I think Bug, fast forward 2 years at 14 years old, I want to say he was the first person that I ever rapped with too, if I could remember right. Rest in peace, Johnny Ziggs. It was Junebug and Johnny Ziggs. And Junebug, he used to live right there on Pine Street. And we used to put the black light on and we used to freestyle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to just kick back, I wouldn't really freestyle like that. And then it was Bug. He was the first person to really start getting me freestyling. And then he already had juice beats. A lot of people don't know this. So, me and Joseph, me and Shy Boy, we went on to push juice beats and stuff. But really, juice beats, Junebug made that up. Like around those times when we were rapping, he had juice beats. His name was Junebug, so he had that. But and then I started calling it the Juice Beats Tokers. And then he was obviously rapping with us until he went to prison. Excuse me, himself. And then things just he just never really, when he came back, he had a family and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I want to say he was the first person to really give me that name. We were just kids, and I kind of just have kept that in a lot of ways. Me and Vic were just talking. Shout out Gringo Chido. We were just talking about that on why I keep that name, and I keep it because I think it still humbles me in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? You know me better than anybody else, and I mean you've seen I've came a long way. For sure I'm not the teamite that maybe you hear or that you think of when it comes to mine. But when somebody calls me teamite or I hear the name, it really humbles me, and it remembers when I was just a little kid out there just wandering, wandering the neighborhood really on my bike, and was exposed to a lot of things. You know what I mean? Kids back then, it was late '90s, early thousands. The streets were a lot different, and all our primos were out there running the streets, and I wanted to run the streets with them, and that's kind of how I got into that life. Not to glorify it or anything, but that's just how it happened for me. I know some people really look towards it and all that. I really believe that I was just exposed to the environment as a young kid, just riding my bike, riding around. I was a skateboarder. I liked riding around on bikes, you know what I mean? I wasn't really, I've always been into hip hop. Even, you can ask anybody who really knew me. I was always had my headphones on and stuff like that, you know. But and then when you're young and you're just wandering around and you don't really have any guidance and you're kind of it's easy to be misled and to see things and to be misguided, and I think that's kind of how I ended up going down the wrong path. Not necessarily because I wanted the wrong path. I don't think no kid out there who's gangbanging right now or headed down the wrong path by doing whatever you're doing I don't think any kid is thinking, oh, I want to go down I want to do this, and that and the other. If you do, that's probably some mental health issues or something. I never thought like that at all. When I was young at a time when people were actually balling, when drug dealers were really balling, and when I was young, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't grow up like that, and so that's where my ambition to be a hustler came from. Seeing them fools ball out like the way that I saw, and we didn't have a lot of money, and around here, there's a lot more successful people. Well, maybe there was back then too. I shouldn't say that there wasn't, but I've been exposed to more successful people now to know that that isn't the only way to be successful. And I think that when you're young, I think that matters. I think that who you're around, your exposure, the people, with the things that you're seeing, those things matter. When I was younger and I saw a parent who wouldn't let their kid do, something that I didn't think it being a big deal, and they wouldn't even let them do that, I used to think like, wow, I felt like they were shielding them, like putting them in a bubble. And maybe to a certain point, that is true. But on the flip side of that, you also want to watch what you're exposing a child to. I believe my exposure to a lot of the wrong things led me further down the wrong path than if I would have not been exposed to those things. And vice versa. You can be exposed to things that are really, really great for you and go really far. And my point to that is your guidance in life. And that's why I talk about being labeled a lost youth. To me, a lost youth is somebody who doesn't have that proper guidance. Maybe they don't have a father figure. The person that they're looking up to isn't a person that they should be looking up to, and when you're young, you really don't know what you should be looking up to. I've made a lot of mistakes when I was young that I'm barely now, I should say, really feeling the effects of those, of those consequences that I did. Because sometimes it takes a long time for something to catch up to you. Like, man, now I can't do this, or things are difficult for you, or you're labeled a certain way. Whatever the case may be, it's going to catch up to you, But when you're young, you don't see it like that, because it's easy to really get in trouble real quick and for it to really look like it doesn't affect your life at all. I know that from experience. I did things like that time and time again, and it never really felt like it had affected me immediately. I think that's why I was never used to be like, what are people so scared of? Because it didn't seem like anything was truly affecting me immediately. You know what I mean? Maybe you do a little bit of time or something like that. But, I used to always think, if you ain't kill nobody, they don't let you out, with that kind of thinking, that's not really good thinking. And which, but that's the way that we were coming up, it's just, and I really truly believe that's just because that was what we saw, again, exposure to what was there. And that's why, I'm so grateful now, and why I always try to, preach the knowledge, any knowledge that I have. I'm not the type to gatekeep it or hold it. I share it with individuals because it's really changed me. I went from being just, a homie in the hood to somebody who is surviving in industries and businesses, and thriving to be a better person, a better dad, a better brother. You know what I mean? And I think that all those things happen, first, all glory to God, by the blood of Christ, for sure. But also the people that he's put in my life, I know you've seen it over, you've seen everybody I pretty much have ever been around. So you've seen the difference in that, and the people that I take advice from, and who I let around me now. We were just talking about that earlier after church, is who are you copying? who are you mimicking? Who are you around that you're allowing to influence you? That's so big to me now. You know, and when I was young, I couldn't see that. That's why I was so influenced by all the wrong things. You know what I mean? It's really easy to do that, especially when you're in an environment like the one we live in. You know what I mean? Lompoc is a really beautiful city. It's a really great town out here in Central Coast, California, right by the beach. It can be a beautiful place, but what goes down in between these streets is a lot of things that aren't talked about, like so many cities out there. And I just truly believe that stuff like that, these kids just don't have the proper resources. And there's so many successful people around us that people think, how can that be? You know, so they kind of just wash right over that, but they still don't see that there's this. And I guess most of it maybe is a mindset thing, you know, and it's a trap mindset. You start feeling sorry for yourself, and that's why I always tell you, you know, don't ever feel sorry for yourself, or throw yourself a pity party, play yourself a violin. You know, I also think that they don't tell kids that no more. You know, when I was a kid, we got told that. You know, but yeah, no, I think that things like that is what shapes you as an individual, and that's what shaped me. And I think that parents who can recognize that early and guide their kid in that way, that's why their success rate is so much higher. It's guidance, you know, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Well, and also you said like being around people that are gonna make you feel better and do better things. Like just being around you and Vic lately, and just being how you guys are ambitious, getting it and everything. And now look, I'm over here trying to set this up just to try to help other people, do more things, and just
Exactly.
just out there trying to do.
You
You know,
spread that. That's all a real hustle is exactly like you get motivated by something and you cling on to it. So you see us going for something, you know, and you want to go for something. So it gets you thinking, you know, that's how you came up with this. You're like, hey, and you see everybody that were around, business owners, entrepreneurs. So this is a great idea. You know what I mean? Because what we're doing is we're creating a platform for the people that we know. You see the circle that we're creating of entrepreneurs from all different, you know, all different cultures in different platforms. And, you know, I truly believe that that's all the 805s ever lacked is true unity. You know, there's always a lot of division and things like that. And I think people think that they all have to believe in the same thing and that they all have to, you know, believe in
or that they're all kind of against each other.
yeah,
Everybody kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
feels
yeah.
about.
And that's why I really like, you know, shout out to Odyssey Visuals, you know, Gringo Chido, my boy Big's Vision, you know what I mean? Resonate Films, Resonate Promotions, you know, all them cats. I think that we all see that we're all different, but we all see that we want the same thing. And I think that when you can put ego to the side, like how what we were talking about, and really get to this, great things can happen. You know, it's been proven time and time and again. You can look around and point at different industries and see that you know that's what works is working with other people. There's a saying that says, if you want to go somewhere fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you're gonna need a team. You
Mhm.
know, and that's why lately I've been more, you know, on connecting with people, building. You know, that's what you know, shout out to my dog, Anthony Gaitan, down in Dallas, Texas. He's a true leader. That's my boy. And he's really poured a lot of that into me, you know, on not being able to accomplish things alone. And why would you want to? You know, there's no glory in that. By you winning all alone and only you eating, that's it's kind of a selfish. I mean, if that's your goal, no, I'm not
Mhm.
hating on it. You know what I mean? All power to you. I don't know your story. I'm not here to judge it, but I'm just saying anybody who knows and has a little bit of knowledge and knows that this life is about bigger things than that. It's about impact. You know what I mean? It's about how many people can you push to the top. Anybody can get to the top if you just focus all your time and energy only on yourself solely, and you work your time well and you do your due diligence. I promise you, you're gonna get to where you want to be. But how many people can say that they have pushed people to the top? Not just once, not just twice, but over and over again. They can continually push people, and I think that's what I want to do. That's what I want to. That's why I strive to become a better person, so that I can lead people a better way. And I truly believe that that's why God's put me through so many challenges in my life. I've gone through so many of them, and I used to, just like we were talking a few minutes ago, I used to be that person thinking, "Oh, poor me. It always happens to me." It's just playing the violin for myself. But only now do I realize that those things were shaping me and making me to understand situations and to maybe help people navigate through their own trials, because I've lived it. You've seen all the stuff I've had to overcome, and still I'm overcoming, and but I don't let it get me down anymore. I used to let it get me real mad and be angry and think like, why me? And like I said, I would think back to the time where I did something, and now it's affecting me, and it would get me mad, and but I just truly believe now that all these things have shaped to make me who I am and who I'm becoming. You know what I mean? To be a leader, to be able to lead people, to be able to show homies, it's okay, homie. You can believe in Christ, homie, and you can say it. It's okay, dog. Nobody's gonna, you know what I mean? And if they trip off you, then they trip off you. You know what I'm saying? I've seen fools get down over less. You know what I mean? For reals. I've seen fools get whacked over less, and people want to be ashamed and feel some type of way because people are gonna down talk you. Those things used to bother me, but now I don't. I feel like I don't really care. I don't really give a damn. I know the people who are gonna stay down with me. I got love for them people, and that's why I do what I do for them. They do what I do for me. I mean, they do a lot for me. They help. Shout out to big shout out to Shamanti. She's been a big supporter. Big shout out to my boy Sean Daly. Rest in peace, Ben a Bose. He has my boy Bose has a big part to play in really putting me back into the music scene and just staying with it. To be back into it and doing what we're doing. I definitely have to say Ben a Bose got a big hand in that, because when I came home, he was so much in my ear, and I was really not really thinking any of that. And I truly feel that music and all that has intertwined with financials and learning different things. So big shout out to my boy Bose. Big shout out to my boy Anthony Gayton once again, and the Montes fam for recruiting me into the business and introducing me to Anthony. Shout out to that boy Lucky Luciano, because if that fool wouldn't have changed his life and been rapping, I would have never reached out to him and met all those people. And one day we'll that's another story in itself on how I met all them. But that's just like how I was saying, God's put so many people in my life that has redirected me and put me in a path that I'm walking now. That's what has awakened me so much to seeing that it's all about guidance, that these kids aren't being guided right. And I think sometimes that when you hear guidance, that somebody needs guidance, we think that this fool needs a guidance counselor and some fool in a suit to come up, with a degree on the wall that says that he's studied, behavior and all that. And that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is you need somebody around you who's of good influence, if you're trying to change your life, you need to be around somebody who has changed their life. If you're trying to be successful in business, you need to be around somebody who is successful in business. and so forth. That's what I mean by influence. If you're trying to get up out the hood, you need to be around somebody who has got up out the hood. Like, these things really matter. And it may seem like, oh, yeah, that's obvious. But most people don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That seems so obvious. Can you agree? You know what I mean?
You say it real quick, and then the homies hit you back up, and then you're right back out there.
Exactly. So it's influence. You know what I mean? And it's easy, like it's the homies hit you up, and it's easy to think, oh, I'll do that on another day or whatever. But and I think I was like that in all reality. I think that I've always wanted to be the way that I am right now. But I don't think that I let the influence of the homies. You know me. I was fully engulfed in the life. You know what I mean? And I loved it. I won't sit here and say that I didn't. I loved it. Anybody who knew me know that I loved it. You know what I mean? I had fun in it. But you don't know how much it's harming you. You know what I mean? And again, it's because of the influence. I wasn't looking for anything like that. I was looking at the wrong influence. You know what I mean? All I wanted to do is what I was doing, and again, that goes back to really not really seeing anybody from the neighborhood really make it out yet. You know what I mean? Now there's there's older homies and stuff that they've successfully gotten out of the hood. Successful family men, you know what I mean? Don't live here anymore. Their kids aren't homies at all, you know what I mean? They're good kids, and I think that's becoming more of a thing everywhere. Instead of, as far as when I was a kid, if your dad gangbanged, there was a 9 times out of 10, there's a 90% factor you were probably going to go down that same route. And I think we're seeing a big change in that. No kid, even you could see a homie right now tatted up all over his face, got his hood on his neck, just tatted down. And I bet you that boy taking his kid to the finest schools. You know what I mean? They ain't talking to his son like that. And I think it's because we understand that we were influenced by the wrong things. I know that from my standpoint, I can definitely say that, but I can also say that I don't regret it. I know that might sound weird. I'm over here bad talking the life, but it's saying I don't regret it. And that's because of the brotherhood that I've created with so many people that I'm still down with. People who I don't consider friends, that are family. You know what I mean? Stilo being one, Junebug being one, that he's always been like family to us. Jesse, Pedro, these people, they're people that I call my cousin, that I call my brothers. Their kids call us Theo and stuff. So no, I don't regret it in any of that aspect because of who it's shaped me and make me to be. I think that everybody has a path. Some are smoother, some are rougher, but I'm grateful for it now. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I try to make up so much time, with us. Look at all the time that we lost. I kind of, you do kind of, your family takes the hard end of that stick. They take the shit end of the stick. You know what I mean? Let's not miracle whip it. And that's what happens, and I think that's why now me and you are so close, is because all that time that I spent busted, I would think about that all the time. Like dang, because when I came home, you were already in your 20s. When I left, what were you, like 17?
Yeah, right before senior year had just started.
Yeah, and when I came home, you were already what, 21?
Yeah, like 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, right. So exactly. So I remember thinking like, man, I should be there for my brother in these prime, and I'm just over here. And, in those times, dog, I know you remember, I was just gone, I was just far gone. I was just on drugs. I wasn't in my right mind. I wasn't the right influence for you, for sure. And I just remember thinking all those things and thinking how my family is getting the worst version of me. You know what I mean? And all those things played a factor into me, giving my life to the Lord, when I was in there, shout out my boy Mr. Vominos, my boy Frankie. He was the first one to really put it on me, put Jesus on my heart, and really really teach me how to give my heart and pray right, and just let it be, and let your faith go, and let the image that I was holding on to, let it go. Me and him used to talk about that in the cell, and just like that's where I would be thinking about all these things that we're talking about. You, the family, just everything. And I think that all these things that I've gone through, going to prison, being in and out of the juvenile system, just losing a lot of my youth, family time with people, you know what I mean? And just my innocence, my youthful innocence. As a kid, I was involved with so many things and did so many things that your average kid just doesn't really do. Our exposure to it was very high, and we didn't think nothing of it because we thought it was cool, you know what I mean? In all reality, and only now do I really see the innocence that we were robbed and what we were doing to our families, and the negative influences that I've had on so many people because of the way we were living. We encouraged it just like people encouraged it upon us. And I guess that's why I try to do the opposite now. Be so positive with it. I just try to be a better person.
Yeah, I personally seen you change a lot, especially since Camila's been born. When you came out, not that I was kind of not crazy, but we were just kind of just drinking every day and, not worried about much else other than that.
Yeah,
getting drunk and.
Yeah, I wasn't, as much as I thought I had changed when I got out. I mean, you were there to see. I thought that I was completely different because I had got out and was like, oh, I'm going to be different. But, I think you saw not much had changed. I wasn't hanging out in the neighborhood and I guess just, going out every night. But I was still, like you said, I would get all faded and act a fool. And now, I guess, yeah, you're right. I've changed so much. Like we were talking about, influence. I can't have my daughter seeing her dad just drunk all the time, acting a fool. You see how she is. She's very observant. You know what I mean? And she's quick to tell me something. So if I was drunk acting a fool and I wake up in the morning, Camila, she's gonna be like, you were acting up yesterday, like, and I just don't want her seeing those things. You know what I mean? Like that may seem small. Maybe some parents, they don't think nothing of it, but I think that that's a big deal. You know what I mean? It may seem small, but I think it's a big deal. The little things matter. We didn't grow up like that. We didn't grow up seeing our parents. Yeah, our parents, they had a drink or something, but they weren't getting all hammered. So I just want to. That's why I guess I try to take care of myself, and why I am the way I am is because I know that she's watching. That's why I try to go for so many things, and she sees a lot. She knows right now that we're in here recording this podcast. That's why she wanted to come. And she's watching is my point. And to all parents. And not even just parents. If you're an older brother, look how much, I'm sure you can relate to that. How much of you just watched me? You were just talking about it a few minutes ago, watching me and Vic connect with all these people and really start making some moves. It's inspired you because people, it's influence. You're looking up to somebody,
Yeah, seeing you guys do all this, and then I'm like, how can I step in and just sort of help out? And now I went and try to make this,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm nothing special, but I'm going to try and help out somebody on the other side. And how can we show everybody what you're out there trying to do? The music, I'm trying to put the songs out, how can I show people what you're trying to do?
You're my manager for all booking info. you contact David for T-Mite, well, we're gonna put his phone number and info so it pops up on you guys. But yeah, no, definitely, and see that's that that makes me feel really good, dog, because that's what I want. I hope to do that for all my brothers, you, Luis, Julian, Jasmine, our sister, just everybody that I'm around. I've always looked at myself as like a leader, and I know people that I've grown up with who have been around me. I've pretty much been a big brother to them or whatever, and I'm still around them, and I want them to know that they can still make it too. It don't stop. If you're a homie and you're not even just a homie, if you're just somebody who's had a hard life and maybe you're still struggling, it's just a fight like anything else. I still struggle. I don't have it any easier than anybody else, but I just keep fighting, and I know that God got me, and He's opened so many doors for me. It just never fails, And I think my faith. I could remember sitting in that cell, uh, you know, when I went to prison. I mean, I'm gonna say it for the audience. I forget that a lot of people don't know. We had just gotten distribution from Mac 10, so we were with Who Banging Records. They had a little distribution through. They had some distribution through Universal. So and then a couple months later, I caught that case, went to prison. They gave me 7 years, and I was just feeling low, feeling low. I know you remember the family was mad at me. Not nobody was really talking to me. Your boy was just, I was strung out on drugs. Your boy was just doing bad. You know what I mean? Like, just feeling so low. And, that was when I was celled up with Frankie in the county jail, just doing really bad. And Frankie would preach to me. And I was just hurting so bad. And I just started opening up my heart. And I mean, I had nowhere to go, butt up, and I had no choice really but to either be bitter, harden my heart, and just keep using and just going down that rabbit hole, or just, releasing my faith, and just seeing where it took me. And it's brought me here, thank God, but I was going through a lot. And all these things have really have really helped me to understand and to really know who I am, what I want, and why I'm here, to be a leader, to know that I've led people down the wrong path once, and that's where, I repent and I ask for my forgiveness. I'm not a perfect man. I got some things that I can't erase, but thank God I praise the merciful, the living, graceful God, who doesn't judge by, you can't earn your keep to get into heaven. I don't know if somebody been lying to you, but you can't earn your keep. And thank God, because I would never be able to do it on my own, because that's how messed up I was. But thank God He pulled me out those flames and wiped me clean. And now I'm going to be a leader who leads people to the light and shows them, puts them in the right environments, because that's what it's all about, is being in the right environment. And only now do I know that it's a mind shift. If you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. It's how you're thinking that is going to change, shape your life. Everything that is going on right now, I wanted this. It's not manifestation, it's faith. Your thoughts are leading your way, but what is your strongest thought is where your life is going to take you. You're having millions, thousands of thoughts, but your strongest thoughts are what are pulling you. And that's why, the power of positive thinking, you know what I mean? And all these things have helped shape me, change me. I know you see it the way that I talk, the way that I am now. You know, I read, I study people. I like to be around people who you can feel that good energy off of them. That you know, because I'm feeding off of it and I'm taking notes from them. Just shout out to EGR when he was out there preaching away. You know, I was really feeling it. And when you see somebody like that move with the spirit and they're just moving through,
It's
you
real
know,
powerful.
it's powerful. You saw
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, moving through the crowd. You saw people giving their life to the Lord, falling down, praising. You know, that ain't no act. You know what I mean? Like, and the spirit's moving through him. You know, and and that's what happened to me. Frankie was exactly what EGR was doing. Is what Frankie used to do in the cell, just not to a crowd. It would just be me and the homie. Shout out the homie Johnny from Southside Chiques. You know, Johnny O from Southside Chiques, and we were in that cell, and Frankie would just be preaching. You know, thank God for Frankie preaching, and yeah, it's just all these things have shaped me and led me to who I am, you know, and that's kind of been a little piece of my journey, and you know why I still use the name T-Mite is going through all that and stuff. You know, now I'm not the same T-Mite that I was even just 2 years ago, 1 year ago. You know what I mean? I'm not the same person I was yesterday. You know, I try to grow a little bit every day. It doesn't mean I'm not going to make no mistakes, but I just constantly am striving, you know? And I think that thinking like that, being like that, and I got exposed like that to, again, shout out to my boy Anthony Gaithan. You know, he's a real friend. That's my dog right there, man. He just, I've seen him grow so much and become such a great leader and an even better friend. He's just a really good person. I've seen him and I've seen him be a success in the midst of just growing and being himself and becoming a great leader. It's had a really big impact on me, and you know, it's just had a really big impact on me. Him allowing me to be in the environment that he's created, and I've saw him change. I've seen him change people's lives, and I would just think like, wow, that's just so powerful, so influential, you know? And it's because of the characteristics that he holds. And it made me realize that when you're carrying yourself in the right way, it's bringing power that you can't even see. You know what I mean? And it kind of made me want to be a better person, to be to emulate that, you know, for somebody to see you and be like, wow, there's something about that dude right there. You know what I mean? Like he's got some fire on him. You know what I mean? You could tell. And then if you saw pictures of him before and then you met my boy now, you'd be like, wow, you could totally tell. And you know, I wanted that for myself. You know, I've kind of secretly always wanted that, to be like, holy crap, is that the same person? You know what I mean? And to actually meet somebody who's doing that, oh, it triggered something. It made me be, you know, it made me see in the, not only to meet somebody who did that, but to meet somebody so humble and to pour into you. Somebody I didn't grow up with. I don't know him. I didn't grow up with him. He ain't our cousin. He didn't marry our cousin. You know what I mean? He didn't sleep with our tia before, and you know what I'm saying? And now he's got a successful business. No, none of that. You know what I mean? I just met him. He's just one of them people the Lord put in my life. And he's also one of the first people that I've ever met. Him, and shout out to Scotty and Sarah Montes. They're the first people that I've ever met who I didn't grow up with or anything, and they believed in me so much. You know? That means something, you know? For you to not know somebody and they just have so much, they see so much in you. And at that time, I guess I wasn't, you know, I was like, well, what are they seeing in me and I've heard it before, but when strangers tell you, I don't know why you would think it would be your own family that you would listen to. But when somebody is telling you that you don't know at all, it's like, damn, what are they seeing in me? You know what I mean? And I really believe that something as small as being around people like that has impacted me to do music more, you know, to reach out to Vic and to push him to be better. And now look at that's led to the trickle effect down to you and who, let's see who you influence and who you, and do you see what I'm getting at? Like being that person is better than just a person trying to go all alone and just be, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we're doing here. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Resonate promo, Big's Vision, Odyssey Visuals, Gringo Chido, you know what I mean? Anybody around the Poke, around the 805, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Bams, Skips and them, you know, doing it with Demiza. Anybody in the 805 who's really pushing, you know, out here. There's so many of them, you know what I mean? Just any of them, you know, to not hate, but to go over and shake their hand and see if they need some help. What could we do to help you out, pimp? You know what I'm saying? Because a true hustler knows that if you're helping the next hustler, you know, if he don't help you out, that's all good. I mean, that's his loss. But a true hustler knows it's gonna come back to you in tenfold. That's just how the game goes. You know what I mean? Because somebody gonna see it. Game recognizes game. You know what I mean? That much has not gone away. That's why, you know, people still, you know, people of influence. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's the whole point of this whole thing is, you know, it's nothing special, nothing big, but you got something you want to push. Like, come on.
Yeah,
you know, come talk about it. Well, I'll do as much as I can to help out, to let people know, you know, put the good word out. That's what Vic's been doing lately with the Sunday stories and things like that. You know, like that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you know there is people in the area, you know, who do that. Big shout out to DJ Mambo on Q95.9, how he does the 805 spotlight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was a big influence too. Walking in there and just like, you know, it was just a cool hang and
it was cool
chilled.
vibes, huh?
Yeah, he had his
Mambo's really cool
setup.
people. Yeah, and I think that because there's so many people, not just musically. That's what I love about how the Mambo show is. He ain't just doing rappers. My boy got cooks, business, you know, business owners, entrepreneurs, and I think because when you get down to the 805 and how it is, the 805 is full of hustlers. We got some of the best mom and pop stores. They're really good. You know, they really brand themselves. We got construction companies that have started out as little mom and pop, but have turned into these big corporate giant. Like the 805 is big on entrepreneurship and in success. It's not short of any of that. You know, I just believe that it's never been highlighted. You know, like look at. In the past few years, look how many people know who Demiza is. But he's been around here forever. You know what I mean? Forever. But it's just because our area has never really, the people who have sprouted out of here have never really gotten their highlight. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, like Jay Alerta. A lot of people don't know who he is. He's from Lompoc. You know what I mean? He was making beats in the industry, you know what I mean? Long before social media, and he, you know what I mean, popping in the industry. People still don't, you know, to me, I think he's one of the best producers, if not the best producer to come out of Lompoc, and he just ain't really got his flowers like that. And he's a successful businessman as well. Like, he's a really smart entrepreneur. Shout out to the Alertas, you know what I mean? Jay and Joe. And there's just so many people around here who have success stories around here, but it's just never really been highlighted. You know what I mean? Again, Demiza, I forget what magazine, he was like ranked top 5 most important people in hip hop. Fools are barely finding out about this fool in the past 5 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's just, and there's just so many other people like that around here. You know what I mean? You know, people are just now starting to, Cali Lifestyles, I feel like they're bigger than they are than ever. You know, I would say more people know them now than ever, you know, but they've been here the whole time. You know what I mean? They get a lot more love on social media and stuff, but it's like they're right here, dog. You know what I mean? Like we Dominator's another another diamond in the rough around here. I think we all know that. Shout out to DJ Dominator. He's the OG for real. He's that fool is the 805's Prince. You know what I mean? He's just dirty, dog. I don't think anybody, and I say this respectfully to all artists, but I don't think to any other producer, I don't think anybody can make an old school beat better than Dominator. From scratch, then mixing it. I'm sorry, I've seen a lot of people, but Dom, he's the originator, man. Big shout out to Central Coast Click, him and Rebel. But the 805 is just full of such great talent, you know what I mean? And in businesses, so I think I'm excited to invite people, the entrepreneurs in the local area, real estate agents, real estate moguls, successful entrepreneurs, businessmen, music industry, construction, whatever you're booming around here, because that's the beauty about the 805. Agriculture. I mean, in the 805, you can get your hustle on in so many ways. You know what I mean?
That's why I like Vic's hashtag too. 805 has it all.
Yeah,
like we got it. Everything is right
all,
here.
You know what I mean? And shout out to that store in Slow. Not LA, not the Bay. I just love I haven't been to the store. We gotta go. We're gonna go pop by the store, do a little pop-up, support y'all. Because that's the dopest name ever. Not LA, not the Bay. It's the truth. It's kind of hard to explain how it is, but that's how it is. Because I would say, I don't know how if anybody agrees with this, but I believe the 805 is influenced both ways by LA and the Bay, but we're not LA or the Bay. That's why I like that name. Because me personally, I grew up on Bay Area music. You know what I mean? But I know that dad, you see how dad's always grown up. Like when I was little, dad was bumping Dog Pound. You know what I mean? Snoop, like just
North and Southern California are basically two different states. Almost.
They are, right? Yeah, I think it's safe to say, especially the way the culture is, the slang, the dialect. I don't think anybody's like them Bay Cats. They're their own breed out there. You know what I mean? They got a lot of style. They came up with a lot of things that people use, even when people try to deny it. When you get down to the source, you're like, in the Bay, they were doing that first. You know what I mean? I mean, Too Short's out of the Bay. They call Too Short your favorite rapper's rapper. That says a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that our area has been influenced off both of it because, rest in peace, Mac Dre did time in the Lompoc Penitentiary. When I was a kid, that was big to me. We bumped the romp to death. I know you know that. You know what I mean? I had that poster that he recorded from the Lompoc Penitentiary. I used to have that album on my wall. So, I was definitely influenced by the Romper Room. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jay Diggs and Coolio and all them, Kilo Kurt. I really grew up on all that, And of course, I mean, who didn't grow up on Dr. Dre and Snoop and DJ Quick and things like that? So I've always felt that our area has had a little bit of both, But again, when you listen to the rappers that have come out of here, it's like their own style. You know what I mean? Everybody used to say that Deluxe sounded like Eazy-E, but he ain't rap like Eazy-E. Shout out to Cali Lifestyle. They're the prime example of what we're talking about right here is that they had that, you could hear it when they rap. They were influenced. They didn't sound like Mexican rappers. They didn't put it to you like that. You know what I mean? And then their style and the way it was delivered, it didn't sound like the Bay or LA, but it sounded West Coast. You know what I mean? And I've always felt that that's kind of how the 805 is. It's got its own little style. You could tell when a rapper's from LA or from the Bay. And you could tell when a rapper's from the 5. You know what I mean? From the Dirty Nickel. So yeah, no, I'm really pumped. I'm really pumped about this podcast to really tell more of my story, to can keep talking about what we got coming up, bringing people on here. We're gonna get Gringo Chido on here. We're gonna get Odyssey Visuals on here. We're gonna bring my boy Porky's Barbecue on here. We're gonna get Oak and Smoke Barbecue on here. We're gonna get a lot of, we'll get a lot more business owners and diversify it, and in all walks of life. Maybe we'll get some athletes. Maybe we'll go get us a UCSB athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pull up on them. Shout out to the Gauchos, the whole UCSB Gauchos organization. They're doing and moving out there in Santa Barbara. We're big Gaucho fans over here. You know what I mean? We don't. Sorry, Cal Poly.
Nah, I'll get a Mustang on here too. Yeah, support the coast.
That's true. That's true. My bad. I'm
Just
over here
UCSB is a little
tripping.
closer.
I'm over here set tripping.
UCSB is a little closer.
See, sometimes the hood don't leave me. Your boy just starts set tripping on the north right away. Yeah, no, the Stangs, they're good. Are they balling out and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, they have teams. Obviously, I don't know what they're doing.
That's what I'm saying. I don't really keep up with.
Yeah, I don't keep up with them.
If a Mustang sees this and they're feeling disrespect, come on here and speak your piece, dog.
Yeah. Bring some gear. I'll
I'll
wear
gear.
it.
We got you. We ain't haters. You know what I mean? We're not bad mouthing y'all. We're just keeping it.
Yeah, no, but really anybody who's trying to come on and
use the platform for what it is.
Use whatever platform to try and shout out their page, their business, music, whatever it may be.
Well, speaking of that, the pages. For those looking to follow, is my hashtag on. My name on Instagram would be Heavenbound805. That's my personal page. And then What You Known For, ENT. That's the business page for the music and stuff like that. And then Heavenbound805 for the personal. We'll go ahead and put that up on the screen too, huh?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're working some things out, but yeah, no, I'm excited for it, man. I'm glad we're doing it. I'm really excited. And I want to tell my whole story. Maybe on the next one we'll get into more specifics. This one we just popped it on. I really wasn't.
Even kind of started rough and everything, but it's first episode. I just kind of wanted to get it going. It's kind of hot in here too.
In all reality, this is the first time I've ever done a podcast. And you know what's crazy is, anybody who knows me is like, well, the fool who talks all the time can't talk. But it's just different when you have a camera on you. That's why when Vic, half the time he's recording me, for people who don't know, I don't know that fool's recording me. I never
don't say anything, and it's best to keep it that way.
And I think
he knows.
It is best. It is best like that, because if you know me, you know that I'm kind of real loose with it. I'm a fool. I like to act up, and I talk a lot. I could ramble on and just go on for days, but when a camera's on, I start stuttering and forgetting what I'm talking about, and rambling and things like that. As to where when the camera's not on me, I can be real. I can captivate somebody's attention and hold the conversation better. I don't know what it is about a camera that intimidates.
Well, even last night when we did like just the test, and it seemed a lot more. We were just kicking in. It was going real smooth.
You want to know why? Because I didn't know that when I was like, "Are you recording?" I didn't know you were recording again.
And that's how I was planning on starting this one, but then I kind of started. It was like, I kind of blew it the way I started. I didn't want to do it that way, but
you should just do it like that.
It's episode 1. We're gonna figure things out.
But next time I'm gonna be nonchalant for y'all, and I'm gonna make sure to be more laid back, and I'll really tell the complete story, about how I really got into rapping, how I really got into gangs, what really got me into it, what happened to me that made me just leave the life and walk away, and how hard that was. That's not an easy thing to do. I went through a lot of things. I got some holes in me over it. when you make a decision, you got to stand by it. It's not always a pretty thing. So, well, I'll get into that. Me going to prison, doing my time, coming home. Like I said, giving my life to the Lord in prison, and then when I came home, I was still a little bit lost, but just started, really praying for change, and I guess that's how I met my boy, Anthony Gayton, the Montes fam, and everybody. I'm gonna make sure I get the story down nice and tight for y'all. Oh, there goes my daughter. So I told you she knows that daddy's recording. Daddy's on the time. She's like, where is this boy? So yeah, if you guys can't hear, she's knocking. Yeah, my love. Okay. You're just gonna go for a little walk? Yeah. Okay. Okay, you stay close to Grandpa, okay? I love you. I thought she's taking Smoke for a walk. Smoke's the dog. But yeah, no, like I was saying, definitely, because the cameras were making me nervous and stuff. Taking pieces of the stories and leaving certain things out and stuff, and I want to make sure that I give my whole story and testimony for sure on what changed my life, the impact that I cannot stress enough. Big shout out to the whole Crushing Giants, Morgan's Maniac organization. They just truly helped me shape my thinking, and I really want to talk about that and talk about how shaping my thinking has been the biggest thing for me. I'm pretty sure would you agree that, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Right, the way that I think now and the way that I move, and that has a big part into the people that I've been, who are leading me, I should say, because I take Anthony is my friend, man, but I look at him like as a mentor. I look at him like as a coach. You know what I mean? He's my friend and we're friends, but I look at him like as a coach. I look up to him. He's living a lifestyle that I want to live. You know what I mean? He's doing things that I want to do. You know what I mean? He's became a person where I want to become a person and change my ways that he has, And I've seen him do that. The Scotty and Sarah Montes, for those who don't know who they are, go follow Montes fam on Instagram. I have seen those two, that power couple, I should say. I have watched them fire their bosses, quit their jobs, sell everything that they own, move to Dallas, and become regional vice presidents of a company in 6 months. And a year from that are making over $100,000 a year on their own pen. They don't have a boss. They don't, and through the guidance of the coaching of Anthony, and that, I'm not saying that to, tell you to quit your job and go follow Anthony. And that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that's what type of leader he is. You know what I mean? And for somebody to do all those things and to trust you that much, and for you to not let them down and push them up, that had a huge impact on me. Well, we'll get into all that. You know what I mean? When I saw that, I was like, what am I witnessing here? You know what I mean? And again, I don't believe in no coincidences or anything. I believe that God introduced me to these people and put these things in my life for me to see things that I pray about, the success that I want, and the things that I've dreamed for myself. I've seen them happen for other people in front of me. I don't know, I don't know how other people take that, but that's not something to take. If you're out there and you've seen somebody's complete success from bottom to top, and you're just taking that lightly, or you're just, maybe being envious of it, slow down and eat a slice of humble pie and really take that in. Don't be that person. Let me encourage you to not be that person. Be the person who is inspired by that and thinking, wow, if that person can do it, why can't you do it? We're all made the same way. We're all wired the same way. The only difference is in between most people is in our actions and in our thoughts. You know what I mean? Those are the biggest differences. And I've come to realize full effect that it is that, what's happened to things like that. I want to have some conversations like that and really get into my life and talk about these people who have influenced, and big shout out to that boy Lucky Luciano. Again, Luck is a friend of mine too now, and I don't know Luck on no rapping stuff. I never did a song with Lucky. I don't even think I've done a show with Luck or anything like that. I met Lucky when Lucky started doing Primerica. Lucky was doing Primerica, and he was putting these posts out on Instagram. And I had just gotten a life insurance policy through the union, and I didn't understand it. They sent me this big old package, and lo and behold, this fool's right here talking about this, and I had been around Bash and a lot of them cats, and a lot of them were really down to earth people. So, I just thought maybe this fool's down to earth too, you know what I'm saying? Let me see, and maybe he'll help me out with this. And long story short, he did. Not only did he introduced me, he's the one who introduced me to Scotty and Sarah Montes. And they recruited me to the business, and so that's why I always say big shout out to Luck, because just from bumping a rapper, just from playing some music, it's taken me down this crazy path and introduced me to some amazing people, and I believe it's revived the dreaming in me. You know what I mean? I'm back to dreaming big again. I know what I want. I'm going after it. I know you see it. It's not easy. If you're gonna go out there and you're gonna go for your dreams, strap your boots on. You're gonna get dirty. It's gonna be hard. Everything that we're doing right here, it's not easy. But you can do it too. I'm sure that where you're at right now ain't no easier. And that's kind of how we're looking at this thing. It ain't getting no easier. Don't wait till tomorrow. It ain't going to get easier on you. I'm praying for y'all. I pray you make it. I see you at the top because the bottom's too crowded. You know what I mean? And because we're going to get up there. We're going to get there. We're making these moves, making all the right moves. We only take calculated risks. I'm learning all aspects of as much as I can, financially, spiritually, trying to better myself. So we're going to bring y'all some really good content. We're going to bring y'all some really good conversations. Like my brother was saying, this is just episode 1 of the Nothing Special podcast. Just some conversation, light conversation, nothing special. That day-to-day conversation, coffee conversation, the smoking conversation. That's what kind of the laid back conversations, but the real ones, not that bull conversation that don't lead to nowhere. We're talking about conversation that is pushing you up. What are you doing that's making you better? Why are you not growing? Trees never stop growing until the day they die, and neither should you. Why are you not growing? Stop making excuses. Stop using your ego as an excuse. I'm somebody who can have 1,001 excuses on why I should give up because people don't open the doors for me. But just when people shut the doors, God puts somebody who's willing to pick the door for me. And that's kind of how it works. Somebody will always open a door for you. Somebody will always open a door for you if you stand there long enough and you're trying to open it. Even if they ain't got to the key, I promise you, they're going to open that door for you. You have your faith in the right places. And I hope you place your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, because he can change your life. He's changed mine. My brother right here, he can fully testify to you guys that I'm not the same brother that he had 15, 20 years ago. I'm a completely different person. And I pray that me really exposing my life and talking about it and starting to post more on social media and write these songs and release these songs show somebody that you could do it too, homie. I pray you do it for your kids, dog. I pray you do it for your mom. I pray I pray you do it for yourself. It'll be the best thing you ever do is to be your own man and create something beautiful for your family. I pray you buy term and invest the difference and change your family tree forever. I'm T-Mite on the Nothing Special podcast. It's just been a little light episode for y'all. I'm with my bro, David, a.k.a. Mac, Lil Lines. And we're live on Nothing Special. We're going to be bringing y'all more, bringing people to the platform. Much love for y'all having us on.
Bye.